your dream, and I put them in the form of questions. And I want to give maybe 4 or 5 of them to you that'll kind of get you jump-started today, that'll allow you to begin this dream journey successfully. And my goal is that next year when you come back to your conference, there will be many of you, and you'll be further along. You'll be coming on this platform, you'll be getting the awards, you'll be getting the recognition, and you'll be saying to yourself, the reason I'm climbing in this organization is not only because it's a phenomenal company, but the reason I'm climbing is because I've got some valid reasons to achieve this dream that I have with them. So, let me give them to you, and some of them I'll talk a little bit about, some I'll talk a little bit more about, but let me give them to you, and I'll start with what I think is the most important one, okay? The first question you have to ask yourself is what I call the ownership question. And the ownership question just simply asks, is my dream really my dream? That's a very important question. Is my dream, is the dream that I have right now, is it really my dream? Is it mine? Because a lot of us have dreams that aren't ours. They're borrowed dreams. They're dreams of somebody maybe that we love, or somebody that maybe we respect. For example, when I grew up as a child, the first dream I had, and probably the first dream you had, wasn't your dream. It was probably your parents' dream. My parents, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, they sat me down one day and they said, John, we think you are gifted musically. And we would like you to take piano lessons. And we think you could be a terrific pianist. Now, that was a dream my parent had for me. They wanted a musician in the family. Some of you are laughing a little bit too much out there. So what did I do as a 7-year-old? I went down to Wayne Reno's house every Tuesday afternoon, and I took piano lessons. I'd sit down at the piano, and I did the scales, and I learned the basics, and I'd play the piano, and Wayne would be there with me, and I would go through that whole process. Now, I don't think it took long for my piano teacher to understand that I was never going to be a great musician. I'm going to guess a month or two, he thought, this is not a good thing. But I took piano lessons for 5 years. Hey, I'll tell you when I realized I wasn't going to be any good. This was at when we did our first piano recital. When we did it for you've gone to piano recitals, and I had a piece to do, and I played my piece, and I kind of felt good when I got done playing it. And everybody clapped and cheered. My parents, oh, they were so proud. They had pictures, the whole thing. They were so proud. And I thought I did pretty good. And then right after me, Elaine Mosley got up, and she didn't take piano lessons less than I had. And she played a much harder piece, and she was really good. And I still remember sitting there, and I listened to Elaine Mosley, and I remember looking at myself, and I said, this is not your gift, boy. and not only did I realize that day, but the people at the recital. In fact, everybody at the recital realized that this was not my gift, except 2 people. Would you like to guess who those 2 people were? My mom and dad. My mom, they were thrilled. We had a party when we were done, and all my friends came over, and they made all of our friends talk about how good I was, and I knew I wasn't, and they knew I wasn't, but my parents were just absolutely thrilled. It wasn't until I got in the 7th grade, and they wanted me in the band, and I wanted to play ball, and so we just sat down and we had a come to Jesus meeting, you know what I mean? And trust me, Jesus wasn't there. But anyway, and now they were wonderful. They released me that. You know what they realized? They realized that was their dream for me. Now, what I'm saying is, probably the dream you had first in your life was not your dream. So a lot of times, as we grow through adulthood, we are doing things that are just wonderful and they're just fine and we like them, but they're not ours. And what I have discovered is that if you own your dream, this is huge. If you own your dream, you cross a line. And let me tell you what that line is. When you own a dream, you cross the line from being a believer in the dream to a buyer of the dream. And there's a world of difference between believing in the dream and buying it. You see, it's possible to come in an atmosphere like this, and it's a wonderful company, and you're doing wonderful things, and you're kind of excited about it, and you've got some friends, and you're all kind of doing it together, and you're kind of kumbaya together, and it's, yes, isn't this wonderful, and it's exciting, and there's let me tell you something. If you just believe in a dream, but you haven't bought it, it's only a matter of time till the dream journey will wear out that belief. You have to come to a place where it is your dream. I mean, it isn't your wife's dream. It isn't your brother's dream. It isn't your dad's dream. It isn't your neighbor's dream. It isn't the dream of your upline person. It is your dream. In other words, listen to me very carefully. The dream that you achieve is one not that you rent. You don't rent the dream you achieve. You buy it. When I go into a town, sometimes I rent a car because I'm going to be there for 2 or 3 days. Now, you've rented a car. I've rented a car. You know what you do with rental cars. You just get a rental car. It's a rental car. It means nothing. It's just getting you from one place to the other. It's not something you would buy. It's not something you have any pride in. It's a rented car. And on the 3rd day, if you've been driving around town, the car's getting a little muddy, you've been in raining, you've been going through mud holes or whatever, nobody ever pulls aside over a side and takes a rented car and says, you know what, I need to take the afternoon off because I need to wash this rented car. It's dirty, and dear God, I need to wax it. I need to give this a wax job. And man, I just need... No. You don't wax a rental car. It's a rental car. It isn't yours. In fact, my goal when I take my rental cars in, I have a goal. It's just a personal goal. This is when you travel as much as I, you become jaded. When I bring a rental car back, I want that sucker to be dirty. I mean, I want it to be dirty. In fact, I sometimes run it through mud holes before I take it there. If it isn't dirty enough, I go find dirt. If I could, I'd roll that sucker around in the dirt. I want to be dirty on the inside. Yeah, I throw the sack in there. I mean, when I pull that thing in there, I want them to kind of back away. I mean, and I want it to be out of gas. I don't want any gas in that sucker. I want it on fume. Why? It is a rental car. It isn't mine, and I love the fact that when I leave it, I walk away from it. I never do see it again. I don't take any pictures with it. I'm going home to my own car because I don't own that car. You see, if you don't own something, you won't do what you need to do to make that something important in your life. When I was young, I started off in the ministry. I had this little church in southern Indiana. I'm talking a very little church, just a handful of people. The first Sunday, there were only 3 of us. Is that small enough? And 2 of them were Margaret and me. An old lady who lived right beside the church. Just a little rundown, 100 years old building, roof sag, walls bowed. You can't poorest county in the state of Indiana. You can't even imagine. But here I am. I'm a kid, and I've got a dream. And I have a dream because I saw a picture in Chicago of a large church that had like 3,000 people in front of it, and I thought, I want to build the largest church in America. And I thought, how am I going to do that? And so I did some research, and I found the top 10 churches in America with the pastors of them, and I called them all on the phone. I said, you don't know who I am. I just got a little church, but I want to build a big one. And you know how to build a big one, and you've got answers, and I know you don't know who I am, but would you give me 30 minutes of your time if I came and I drove to your city and I knew I wasn't going to get their attention. These guys they don't want to pay attention to me. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you $100. I'll give you $100 for 30 minutes of your time. Just $100. You just give me 30 minutes of your time. Now, when I was offering $100 for 30 minutes of my time, I that year made $4,800. I didn't even meet President Johnson's poverty program. I went to pay taxes, and they said, you don't pay taxes. You don't make enough money to pay taxes. And I said, I'll give you $100. I'll give you $100 for 30 minutes of your time. And only 2 of them saw me, not all 10 of them. And so I went to those 2, and when I went in the office, the first one, I already had my questions on a legal pad, 5 pages of questions, and I had my tape recorder. I didn't want to miss anything, turned it on, and I just started asking questions for a half hour, and I didn't get very far, maybe a page and a half. Threw everything back in a briefcase and got up, took out my check, handed the $100, shook their hand, said, thank you very much. You have no idea how much you helped me. And then I took my briefcase and I go out in the parking lot, throw the briefcase in the back seat, and I lay my head up against the steering wheel, and I would bawl like a baby. I'd just cry, and I'd say, dear God,